I'm Diane Rowden, Hernando County Commissioner with awesome Hernando County. And today I have sitting here with me John Emerson. He's our property appraiser for Hernando County, and his chief deputy, Manny Padron. And I would like John to turn this over to you so that you can talk about your department. And again, John is a constitutional officer. We have, I think, 7 constitutional departments in the county, but the property appraisers is one of them. So, right. So,
well, it's what the office, we have a statutory responsibility to account for all the parcels in the county, which include real and personal property. And we have about 124,000 of those. And our job each year is, I think a lot of people come from different states to where a valuation is maybe every 3 or 5 years. We do it yearly in Hernando County. So we have to set a market value on those parcels each year. Right now, the just value in the county is around $12.5 billion in value. And
that's the value of the properties that are in the county, right?
We have about 115,000 real properties and about 10,000 tangible personal properties. And another responsibility we have, you got to remember that just about everything we do here is either run through the Constitution, state constitution, or statutes, or ordinances with the county. So there's very little flexibility on when it comes to the actual tax roll.
So you mean you don't make up your own rules,
No,
John?
I don't make up my own rules.
That's not what I heard out there.
I know, I hear a lot of things myself, but one of the other things we do is we're responsible to inspect 20% of all the parcels each year too, physical inspections.
And are these residential or commercial or a combination?
Vacant, any improved properties, any vacant properties, all that fall into that same category. And later when we get into the mapping part, if we can talk a little bit about how we can do desktop appraisals now using mapping.
Oh, wow.
One of the other things we do, and I think maybe a lot of people that are moving here from other states don't realize, is we have Homestead Exemption in Florida, and we're responsible for taking that and taking the applications and granting homestead as long as they comply with all needs, as well as ag classification, which is commonly known as Greenbelt.
Can you go into a little more about with the homestead exemption and what people have to do and how that works?
Yeah, a lot of misconceptions out there, and I still hear that you have to live in the house a year and all that. It's what you have to do is own and occupy the house on January 1. Our date of assessment is January 1 of each year. So, and when you come in, you need to have your driver's license reflecting your homestead address. You need to have, either a voter's registration or declaration of domicile. And all your other stuff changed over, whether it's, you can show that you are residing in there. Let's say you have an electric bill and things like that. And you come in and give us all that information, and of course we review it and we grant them or deny them based on if you qualified. This year we actually denied 200. We sent out 200 denials because they didn't comply.
Now, what's the cutoff date? Is it March?
March 1st is the statutory cutoff date. I have discretion to extend that date, and I do. If people, there's a lot of young couples or first-time home buyers that really aren't aware of what homestead is. Mm-hmm. So when they come in here, some neighbor might have said, you have homestead, and let's say they came in April, as long as they would have qualified to start with, I have a discretion to go ahead and grant the homestead. And I just want people to understand a lot of those statutes probably should be maybe updated. Those dates were there because things used to be done by hand. You did the tax roll by hand. You did what they call the property record card, was actually card stock, and you calculated the values on each one of those.
So you had to have your information in
right.
pretty far in advance so that it would give them time to go through
exactly.
all those cards.
And now since everything's done through the computer, we actually take homestead applications online now.
And one question that's brought up to me out there a lot is that there's a lot of people that are renting homes, and people have said, well, I think they've still got homestead exemption and they're renting their home. I mean, I'm not pointing any fingers, but just to clarify, I think that people ought to be kind of careful about doing that.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the main things that, I think that's another thing that people don't realize what we do. We actually have a homestead fraud department. And over the last 3 years, since I've been property appraiser, we've actually returned $1 million tax dollars back to the county through discovering homestead fraud, and added 18 million back on the tax roll. But you're right, and we do have a button on our website that says if you think what you're talking about, if you suspect something, you can anonymously send us an email, and we will check it out, right? And no, you aren't supposed to rent your house. You cannot rent your homestead house. You can't do any of those things that might indicate that you don't really live there anymore.
Well, that's good, and it's good information to get out there, because I found that the majority of the people in Hernando County are honest, and you know, it's that small percent sometimes that makes other people look bad. And so if you've got a way for people to get information, and you know, people are scared to, you know, rat on somebody or whatever, but like you were saying, it's not really ratting, it's helping the community, and it's helping yourself.
Well, you know how it is. A lot of people don't mind paying their fair share. They don't want to think that somebody's getting advantage of the system, or you know, playing the system like that. So we get a lot of those kind of reports. You know, what was go ahead.
And I've got Manny over here who does a lot of the mapping for you, John. He probably does all this mapping. So maybe you can introduce Manny and what he does for you, and he can talk a little bit about that.
Manny is my chief deputy, and we're real proactive in this mapping. It's GIS, and it's part of our website if anybody goes on it. If they click on their parcel, you'll see an ortho, and we also have obliques, which are 45-degree angles around the whole house, if there's a house there. And we've come a long way in the last few years with those. I think we're at 6-inch aerials and those, which gives you a higher quality, higher resolution, and which makes it possible that we could actually do some reviews with aerials. Let's say you're in an area like Hernando Beach or Timber Pines, where there's not that many additions being done, but you can actually do our inspections with the aerials. And Manny can go over.
You can actually do the inspections?
That's part of the new statutes. It says if you have a good quality product, like 6-inch aerials, you can actually, that will account for a physical inspection.
So you can come in and see where someone might have put down a swimming pool, and they may not have told you about the swimming pool.
Maybe they didn't get a permit.
Uh-oh.
Like that still happens.
Yeah, so you can actually see that. And Manny, why don't you kind of explain how that works?
Well, yes, as is being discussed, we have a central GIS program in this county, and which makes us very unique. And the lead agency is the property appraiser, as well as central addressing, which gives us another unique perspective. So while we're looking at this data and encompassing all the county data, because we've also had a recent agreement, which is the Lion database that's migrating all to the property appraiser's office, that really gives us a unique perspective on helping not just the taxpayers, but even local government. The more we have the data available to us that we can make it available to the customers, that's how it helps everyone. Just as the exemptions were mentioned and investigations, if you catch it early, a person might not know what exists in the law. If you catch them early and you can help them, there's no penalties and fines, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to catch it early to inform the customer, to inform the taxpayer. We also have an outreach program that we're heavily involved in the county, where we go out to the realtors on a monthly basis, as well as other associations. We're constantly trying to get the word out there. That was Mr. Emerson's big focus, to actually educate people, because if you educate them on what we do, then they understand it. So now let's go more into the central GIS part. When you have this information available to the public, first thing is E911 is the most important. We want them to respond as fast as possible, because every second counts in emergency response. So that is very important. We have over 425 feature class data sets, and for example, one data set is all the streets in Hernando County. So when I say 425, that's a lot of information.
So somebody can go on and we'll tell them how they can find this before we stop the show, but they can go on this program and they can look where they live, they can see their neighbor's house, they can look all around and actually see what the whole neighborhood looks like, right?
Absolutely. There's a lot of information out there. Because we developed our own website for the property appraiser as well as Central GIS. They have, I think it's about 18 interactive maps right now. Our most recent one is the surplus properties. That's us working with the county attorney's office. So they can look at all that information, election information, they can look at parcel information, they can look at basically everything in local government.
And what about, you have people moving to Hernando County and they're starting to look for a house, and they want to know whether a particular house that they're looking at has had a sinkhole. Is there information on this site that can show people where sinkholes are and where they've been repaired and things like that?
Absolutely. And so first, we have it available in our sinkhole interactive map, but we also have that available on the property appraiser's website. So when you do a property search, Mr. Emerson wanted to have it in green or red so it displays easily for the user whether it's a sinkhole repaired or it's just reported. When we mention, I would advise everyone to go to the interactive map, but the hometown services. That is your best map because the rest of them are targeted for a specific purpose. But the interactive map, the hometown services, you could see who your utility company is. It has the link to the website. It's an all-inclusive internet map that assists that person. This is what we tell the Board of Realtors to also show this to the customers, because everything they need to know. Middle school, high school, closest library, closest college, even with directions, it has everything that a taxpayer would want to know about their property.
And would it show if an area was prone to flooding?
We have the DFIRM interactive map because that's a lot more data, and you really don't want to slow everything down.
But you can't. You do have that on a map that they can look at, right?
Yes, it's called the DFIRM interactive map, and it describes them, all of them. When you hover over that specific map, it gives you a map tip, and it explains to you what it is.
Well, that's great information, because I know there's a lot of buyers out there, unknown buyers, that have bought into an area, and had they looked at the map, they would have seen that this particular one was right into a flood zone that ran right through their house. And we're dealing with a couple of those on the east side of the county, so that's great. And just as a reminder to our listeners out there, I'm talking to John Emerson, who is our constitutional elected property appraiser, and Manny Padron, who is the deputy director for John, who also handles all of our mapping system and who's talking about mapping. Now let's go back to John. John, I know there's some other information that you would like to share in regards to being the property appraiser.
Well, yeah, Manny covered a lot of the things we do other than the obvious ones that people would assume that we do, and that's just valuing all the parcels in the county. We do a lot of that other stuff, and I just wanted to mention, to follow up with what Manny said, a lot of the addressing part of it, the reason that's so important too is that since we control all the addresses, you won't see duplicate numbers, you won't see duplicate street names like you can in some counties that have multiple municipalities. Mm-hmm. And it helps with E911. If they, let's say it's 2 in the morning, you get an emergency call, they can use our system and our maps to show the actual location of that parcel with no question that that's the one it is.
Oh, that's
So
great.
that's real important for E911 and the sheriff's office. So I think that's one of the, well, that's really a great thing that we have done. Manny and them have cleaned up those old addresses. They used to all be on paper, and now they follow the actual addressing, what is it, the national?
Yeah, the NENA guidelines.
Yeah. And some of the other things we do, and I just, you know, people think that maybe you don't have as many calls and stuff. We had over 18,000 phone calls last year, so we do
To
handle
the property appraiser's
to our
office.
office. So we do handle a lot of that. We have quite a few walk-ins. I think we took probably about, what, Manny, 2,500 new homesteads, you know, so, you know, that gives you an idea of how many people are actually moving into the county, you know, so that's going good. Our values went up about a little over 4% this year. New construction was at around 70 million, which is still below what it was in the times most of us think of as normal times, like in maybe the 90s, late 90s. I think values, if they're going up 3.5%, everybody considers that good, healthy growth. And we used to have about 80 to 100 permits a month, and we're still only at the 50 range, somewhere in there. So, you know, residential needs to pick up some. You already see commercial picking up, which is usually a good indicator that those people that do all their research before they build something sees that, you know, Hernando County's coming back.
And I see that. I mean, you know, the whole nation went through this big disaster that we had in 2006 or 2000, and it was pretty significant in Hernando County, and the drop in property values. But I think what happened is, we all know that it was artificially went up to begin with, and it should have probably never gone up as high as it did. And then you've got the big boom that it happened, and now we're starting to level off.
Well, that's like, you know, it's hard to realize that that's been 10 years already.
I know.
But we saw lots, and you guys have lived here for quite a while, and you live in the Royal Highlands area, and you know, I think Royal Highlands itself is about 10,000 lots in there. And at the time, when the lots were $3,000, $3,500, they shot up to 50,000.
Oh, I know.
Which is just
crazy.
And then it, you know, it came back down, but you know, a lot of those banks, you know, I knew that wasn't real. I mean, it'd be one thing if we had you know, didn't have a lot of lots out there and there was a scarcity, but there wasn't. It was just a false market, I think people called it, and it didn't.
Panicky buying, and it was like
they would buy a house, contract to have a house built, and sell it 2 times before it was ever finished, and every one of them was making money. And then ever who had it at the end was stuck with it. And I think that was a lot of the reasons we had so many foreclosures. Not all foreclosures were forced. A lot of them were elected to just, I'm not going to pay it anymore.
Pay it because
I'm
they're
not
so
going
upside
to.
down.
It makes no business sense to try to keep paying it. Those were a lot of the investors did that, and they just let them go back. And I think foreclosures, like the paper said, is slowed way down.
It's slowed way down, and I think what's happening too is that the value is starting to come back in to these homes, so that people, if they are upside down, it's not nearly as bad as it was when it first happened. So
the values have come back, and the number of sales has increased on residential. I think we're over, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 sales we had last year. I've got that data. Actually, that data's on my website. If you go,
give them that website address, John.
Manny's got it right there.
www.hernandocounty.us/PA.
Okay.
If you go on that website and you look on the left-hand side of some different, you can click on it. It has property stats, and all that information is what the value was the last 10 years, what it is today, how many homes sold.
And they could also just Google property appraiser Hernando County and come up with the same thing, and you've got your phone number is on there, and people can call. Want to go ahead and give them the phone number, Manny?
Yes, our phone number in the office is 352-754-4190. We do have an automated attendant, but it will direct you to different departments to assist you with your questions.
Well, that's great. And keep going, John. I know there's more, and with Manny, with the mapping, there's just a lot of opportunities out there for our residents. So.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff, and you know, going back to the realtors a little bit, we're trying to educate them. You know, there's a lot of realtors getting back into business with hopes of things, you know, looking better. And we try to go out there once a month and do the new Realtors Orientation to help the new Realtors understand what they can get off of our website and what we do, like we've been talking about already. And we also try to, at least once a quarter, get the Realtors to invite all Realtors, not just first-time Realtors, in there, and we'll actually do kind of like an education seminar for maybe an hour or two, or whatever, how long they would like, and go over all of these things that we have that would help them and the general public. We have about 130,000 hits a month on the website.
Oh, really? 130,000?
130,000, over 1 million a year on hits on that website. So a lot of people rely on that information, and that's one of the reasons we built it in-house. It used to be through a vendor, outside vendor, like a lot of people use for websites. And we did this ourselves because we know what we wanted to have on it. I used to be a fee appraiser before I came here, and I know what I would like to see, and that's where we tried to make it, you know, in that way, if you or anybody else has an idea on what would help us with the features on the website, you can call us and we can have those taken care of within a day or two, depending on how complicated it was. We can do our own updates and changes.
The tools are there. We just have to get people to use them, and
more and more, like the millennials, the young people, and all that. They want to look on a website just to see what the menu is on a restaurant before they ever go.
Exactly.
So they're used to that, and that's why we do I mentioned this before. We do Homesteads online now. We do.
So you do Homesteads online?
We take them online, and tangible personal property returns, which are done through the businesses each year for our office. We also take those online to try to make it convenient for people so they don't have to come in here. And that's picked up a whole lot. We get those on a regular basis now, like the Homesteads, and it eliminates walk-ins. You don't have to have people come in here. You don't need as many people up front just to wait on people.
Yeah. And how much has our property values gone up for this year?
About 4.5%.
4.5%. So
taxable value is what you guys are concerned about, and that was a little over 4% too, which was good compared to years before.
Yeah, before we were in the negatives, I think.
Exactly. And if you remember with the Homestead, I want to mention this too. If you do have Homestead, it's capped with the Save Our Homes cap. That's been in existence for quite a while now, and this year if you have Homestead and you didn't do any additions, nothing new to your house, your property won't go up more than 0.7%.
Really?
For tax purposes, because it's capped. It's 3% or the CPI, whichever's the least, and this year the state told us to use 0.7%. So even if your value of your home went up 5% and you have Homestead, for tax purposes, you won't see the value going up more than 0.7%.
Really?
Which isn't very much.
No, that's not much at all.
And with those kind of caps, and any other small ones, if you remember, we actually have low-income seniors, which you guys in the county approved is an ordinance for this county. It's not statewide. It is statewide, but the counties have to approve it. Mm-hmm. And we have over 5,000 residents in the county that qualified for low-income seniors, which gives them an additional 50,000 exemption. So some people out there have $100,000 worth of an exemption on their house.
Wow.
Which is quite a bit.
Now, what if their house is only valued at $70,000? They don't get the extra credit.
If you remember, the second Homestead's incremental, and it doesn't start until you hit 50,000. And if you have a $55,000 value, you only get an additional 5,000 in the second. But a lot of that stuff came in existence when the values were shooting through the roof, and the people in Tallahassee wanted to help in the local thing, but now it's kind of coming to bite you.
It is, because we have probably I think it's over 14,000 people out there that are not paying any taxes because of the homestead exemption.
Oh, that's another thing that's on the website too. If you look, it shows the deferral or the differential between what the assessed value would be without those exemptions and what they are with the exemptions.
So you can see that right on
see how much is being lost due to just exemptions. It's a big number.
Big number.
And we actually have a tax estimator that was developed in-house as well that gives a new resident an idea of more or less what their taxes could be. So that is available on our website too.
Well, that's really important information, because again, when people are looking to relocate to a state or a county, and if they can get on and be prepared a little bit. I mean, because we've heard it before. I'm sure you had, well, if I'd only known. Well, here, there's no reason why you shouldn't know if people will let you know about the information.
Well, and the good thing about the tax estimator, because you're right, I still hear that. You know, they'll see the other person's exemption. Let's say they had low-income senior also, and they'll say, well, that's not bad, but when you buy it the first year, you don't get any of that. You don't even get the homestead maybe. And the value can be big time difference. And if you put in the estimator and put basically what the just value is and any exemptions you might qualify
without a homestead
for.
exemption,
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
Yeah.
it can be real big, and and you're right, a lot of people when they go to closing, they won't inform them that they're gonna lose all that. It's not gonna be what it was when you look on the taxes from last year.
So again, it's important for people to educate themselves. The material's out there, and I'm sure if they call here, if they don't know how to get to the website or if they're having any problems, somebody can help them with that.
Oh, heck yeah, I wish they would. I wish people, when they, you know, kind of narrowed down a location that they would like to live in, call us and ask us some questions like that. You know, what is the millage rate? If you live in the city, it's 23 point something.
In the city is 23.
If you live right out in the county, it's 16 something. So, you know, you need to know if you cross that street and you're in the city limits, it could be,
gonna be a lot
5
more.
Yeah.
Well, just would like to take this opportunity to thank the owners of 102.9 WZEU for allowing us today to sit here and with John Emerson, our property appraiser for Hernando County, and his deputy chief Manny Padron, who handles our mapping. And I'd like to thank you, gentlemen, for coming to the show today. And if you want to add anything else, I'd...
Well, I would. I appreciate being invited on here. It's always nice to get to reach out to the people in Hernando County the best you can. We do 23 or 25 presentations a year in different communities, and the only way you can get out there and let them know what's going on is to like what we're doing today. And
they can call you, and you'll come to their homeowners association.
Oh yeah, we got that on our website. Anybody that would like to have us out there, we'd be glad to come out and talk to them.
Well, that's great. And the telephone number again here is 352-754
4190.
754-4190. Okay, thank you very much. And this is Diane Rowden, Hernando County Commissioner with awesome Hernando County. Thank you.